So one thing I've always loved about China is that their strategy for avoiding all-out conflict with the US has always been let the American people decide for themselves. So when I was 16, I got to go to China thanks to, I believe, the Confucius Institute, which I think no longer exists. But essentially, they flew out these two really sweet Chinese ladies who came and they taught us Mandarin for like 6 months. And then for 2 weeks, we actually got to go to Beijing. I got to go to the Great Wall. I got to see the Terracotta Warriors from Wendy Wu, Homecoming Queen. Yes, bitch. Yes, I did. And we just got to learn a lot about what it's like to actually live in China, or at least visit China. It was so much fun. I had a great time, and I don't personally remember encountering any racism. Now, this was almost a decade ago, not to tell my age or anything, but it was a while ago, and I know that I know other black people have had bad experiences in China, but I had a great time when I went to China. And what I love about that strategy, is that it's such a beautiful use of soft power or of seduction, if you will, as opposed to the American way, which is to like burn a place to the ground, right? China and US have had this kind of, back and forth situation, mostly because of the US. Like, we have politicians who essentially like benefit from being able to stir fires. They're good at stirring up xenophobia. There's a racist history in the US that makes it very easy to feed Americans racism. And China's response was never, well, let's just go to war. It was always, well, hey, come see how we live. Come see who we are. Come learn about us and let's learn about you, which I think is really sweet and I think really amicable, and admirable. And I think more countries should really give China its props, because can you imagine any other country who has essentially been talking shit about one country for decades while that country struggled and worked really hard to pull itself out of poverty? And the only reason that other country hates you is because you won't let them colonize you, essentially. And to do all of that and still never outright show any sort of disdain or hatred for the actual American people is commendable. And it's something that Americans have not been able to do that. Like, when a small minority of people were responsible for 9/11, we responded by carpet bombing the Middle East. The amount of things the US government has done that are maybe not 9/11 level towards China, but have been attempts at majorly destabilizing the country in various ways, for them to continuously say, it's okay, we welcome your citizens into our country, for them to consistently give us opportunities if we wanted to go visit and learn, to go study, whatever you want. Like, the borders are basically open. Like, sure, there may be some steps, but that's natural when you're accepting people from a country who has, all of this really negative rhetoric towards you. I just wanted to make this video because even now, going over to Xiaohongshu, the amount of people, the amount of Chinese citizens in the comments of my videos welcoming me, saying, come to China, come visit China, come stay forever, like, just being nice and really, really welcoming. I think it just goes to show that America and the American culture is so immature. We are an immature culture, and it shows in a lot of ways. One of those ways being that our citizenry does not welcome people. And they can't. Like, we can't. Like, there are so many psyops ongoing in the US at any time that it's literally like, it's so hard to get us on one accord. And I think it's sad because we don't get to show people the good parts of American culture. We don't get to show people the Southern hospitality when we're too busy showing them racism instead. Anyway, I'm glad that this happened. I don't know how long we're actually going to be able to be on that app, but I'm so glad this happened, because I do think that the strategy that China has had of, hey, just get to know us, I do think it's the best strategy. I think it's the most humane strategy. And I do think that this is going to result in the American people being way less willing to engage in xenophobia against Chinese people, or to engage in any sort of like armed conflicts. I don't think most Americans would support that. Now, whether or not the government goes through with that or not is an entirely different question. But at the very least, I hope that Chinese citizens know that American citizens don't want war